I'm Dr. Sarah Evangeline from the Department of History. Today I am going to teach about the Napoleon Bonaparte, the life and the conquest of Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon was born on 15th August 1769 in Corsica Island. He studied in military school at Brainy and Paris. Then he joined the French army at the age of 17 and he actively participated in French Revolution, which gave him an opportunity to display his talents and capacity. In 1795, Napoleon, with the support of the people and army, overthrew the Directory and became the first consul of France. And 1802, he transferred the tenure of consulate from 10 years to one's lifetime, with the right to name his successor. In 1804, he was declared as the Emperor of France. His aim is to become the world conqueror. And now let us see about his conquest. His first conquest was the Italian Conquest, which was from 1796 to 97, which gave him a great victory. There was a saying about this conquest that he came, he saw, he conquered. He won a brilliant victory and called as the Little Corporal. And the second greatest conquest of Napoleon Bonaparte was Italian campaign in May 1798. And in that campaign, in the Battle of Pramids, that made him the master of Nile Basin. The second coalition was formed by Russia, Britain, Austria against France, and he defeated Austria in the Battle of Magnata and Italy also in another battle, and he signed the Treaty of Amiens in the year 1802 with Britain. And again, third coalition was formed against Napoleon Bonaparte, that was signed by Britain, Russia, Austria and Sweden against France, and it was formed under William Pitts Younger, the Prime Minister of Britain, and Napoleon defeated this combined army in the Battle of Austerlitz in December 1805. And next, the important war of Napoleon Bonaparte was Peninsular War. There was a chaotic condition in Spain. The ruler was Charles IV, and his son Ferdinand wanted to remove his father from the throne and wanted to become the king. So he made an agreement with Napoleon, and Napoleon agreed to help him to overthrow his father and to make him the ruler of Spain. As he said, he overthrew Charles IV, but instead of making his son as the ruler of Spain, Napoleon himself became the ruler and made his brother Joseph Bonaparte as the king. And this led to the national revolt in Spain. And English helped the Spaniards, and with the help of English, they defeated French army. In 1813, France was completely ejected from Spain, which was the first defeat of Bonaparte. Then his war with Russia. The Tsar of Russia asked Napoleon to hand over the Constantinople, but Napoleon refused it. This strained the relationship between Russia and France, and Napoleon took 6 lakhs soldiers and to wage war against Russia. Tsar had only 80,000 soldiers. But when Napoleon crossed Niemen River to meet Russian army, he was surprised to see the entire area devastated. The Russians followed the scorched earth policy against French army, which means they destroy their own land and they go away from that place, move away from that place. When the French army reached there, they could see only the empty land, which was there was no food available, there was no shelter, nothing, there was no water. September 14th, 1812, Napoleon reached Moscow, but there also he can find the city was burnt and nothing was there in that city. He waited there, wasted his time for 5 weeks, thinking that Tsar will come back for settlement. But the Tsar didn't do it. Russia didn't, as she got the help from Sweden, Russia did not turn back to make peace with Napoleon. And the terrible winter started in Russia, which acted against the French army. and terrible and horrible winter enveloped the French army. Hunger, thirst, epidemic, lack of accommodation. There was no storage of food. So the soldiers suffered a lot, and they started to eat the flesh of the fellow soldiers. Only 20,000 soldiers returned to France with Napoleon, which this made Napoleon unpopular among France. The next is the War of Nations. Britain, Russia, Prussia, Austria, and Sweden formed a fourth coalition against Napoleon, and they met at the Battle of Leipzig in 1813. Napoleon was very much badly defeated. He was forced to abdicate the throne on March 1814 and was exiled to the island of Elba. And Louis XVIII became the ruler of France. But after a few months, he escaped from Elba and returned to Paris. But he could rule France only for 100 days. It's one of the most romantic episodes in the history of France. And the final battle which was done by Napoleon was the Battle of Waterloo. The members of the Fourth Coalition under the leadership of Wellington attacked Napoleon in the memorable Battle of Waterloo on June 18, 1815. Napoleon was completely defeated by Wellington. Napoleon was exiled to the island of St. Helena in Atlantic. There he lived his last 5.5 years, and he wrote his memories there, meditating over his past, and in the year 1821 he died of cancer. Now let us discuss what was the cause for the failure of Napoleon Bonaparte, the greatest conqueror of the world, one of the greatest ruler of the world. First is his unrestrained ambitions. And he did not realize the limitation of an individual genius. His haughty manners led to make wrong decisions, especially when he invaded Russia. And the soldiers and he himself was exhausted, and lack of support from the conquered countries, and his policy of militarism, his continental system, his unplanned attack on Spain and Russia, and his kindness towards relatives. They were not loyal to him, and he followed the policy of trickery and deceit. He underestimated the power of his enemies, and on the whole, he lost the support of his own people. And we can say his boastful nature and the conscience of superiority, which doomed him to be a failure. Thank you, students.